In episode 2, Spike and Jet Black are on the planet Pluto looking for a big bounty. The guy's been blowing up buildings with a teddy bear, and this could be the big bounty that they've been looking for. Unfortunately, they don't have many leads. They basically have to go to buildings they think he's going to blow up and just kind of scope out some sketchy individuals. The first place they check out is a church. But when Spike heads to the bathroom, Jet Black starts talking to Spike through the earpiece that he has, and Spike's kind of complaining about the fact that they're looking for a needle in a haystack. But then a sketchy individual ends up walking into the bathroom. Spike ends up turning off his earpiece, and his hunch was right. This guy attacks him. He's clearly syndicate trained, and Spike ends up taking him out. Unfortunately, though, Spike ended up missing all the commotion outside of the bathroom. Jet Black ended up seeing a sketchy individual, and when he grabbed his hand, he noticed that he did in fact have a teddy bear bomb. But when Jet Black ended up going to apprehend him, turned out the hand was fake. The whole time, Jet Black is screaming for Spike's help, but he's not getting it because Spike can't hear him. Jet Black ends up running out of the church, and that's when Teddy Bear Boy ends up hitting him over the head and knocking him pretty woozy. Right before he passes out, Jet Black sees Teddy Bear Boy run off. When they both reconvene back at the Bebop, Jet Black is giving Spike a lot of crap for not responding and having his back. It's not a total loss, though. Jet Black was able to grab the hand, so they have something they can go on. Jet Black figures they could use the hand and analyze it and look for traces of explosives. At least then they'll have a lead. Spike ends up asking him, how long is this going to take? And Jet Black says, a couple hours. And Spike tells him, I'm going to go get some noodles. Jet Black tells him, you're not going anywhere. We have to dissect this manifesto, figure out if we can get anything out of it. But Spike isn't interested in any of that. He ends up throwing the manifesto down and leaving to go get some, quote, noodles. He hops in his ship, the Swordfish, disables the tracking beacon, and flies off. But he's not headed to get noodles. He ends up heading to a nightclub called Anna's, and it's run by, this is going to shock you here, it's run by a woman named Anna. Very creative. And Anna's a little bit like Lord Varys from Game of Thrones. She has little birdies, but instead of children, she's just got security cameras. She hears all, she seems to know all, because Anna's is a place that a lot of people go to. Regular people, sketchy people, syndicate people, everybody. And it's a place that Spike clearly went to a lot when he was a part of the syndicate. He ends up going up to Anna's office and waiting for her to arrive. And when she does, it kind of startles her because she had no idea that he was even alive. This is the first time she's seeing him in a while. She tells him, they told me you were dead. And he walks up and tells her, I'm okay. But she ends up slapping him, yelling at him that he let her believe that he was dead for 3 years. He tries to explain, they tried to kill me. And she says, of course they did. Nobody leaves the syndicate. They end up enjoying a drink, and then she asks the question, what brings you back? He tells her that a week ago, he got mixed up in a bounty, and the syndicate was involved, and she can't believe that he's become a cowboy. She starts cracking up because she can't believe that he took a job putting himself in danger. She then asks, though, did you leave any loose ends? And he says, no, I didn't think so. Until today, I was attacked by somebody who was clearly syndicate trained. It wouldn't be the first time an old bounty has come after me, but this guy was somebody they send to take care of a problem. She then asks him, why did you come to me? He says, so you can do what you do best and listen. Spike then gets a phone call from Jet Black. He's wondering where the hell he is. Jet Black did try to use the tracker, but it was disabled. And Jet Black just feels like he's doing all of the work on this bounty as Spike goes out and gets, quote, noodles. So Spike gets to tell Anna, I gotta go. My partner's calling me. And she can't believe that, one, he has a partner. But then when she finds out that Spike hasn't told Jet Black who he used to be, that's an even bigger surprise. Spike explains, though, that Jet Black wouldn't understand. He's an ex-cop. He hated syndicate folk. And Anna feels like Spike should at the very least give Jet Black a chance to make that decision for himself. Spike, though, is planning on keeping the secret to himself for now. Right before he leaves Anna's, he sees a picture of that woman from his dreams. Turns out she's a singer. She's sung at Anna's, and her name is Julia. And Spike asks, is she happy? And Anna gives him the rundown that she's been married to Vicious for a few years, and yeah, she is indeed happy. He then heads for the door, and Anna tells him, if I hear anything, I'll reach out to you in the usual way. Spike ends up heading back to the Bebop, and Jet Black fills him in on everything that was analyzed from the hand. They then head off to a construction site because Jet Black figures this is where the bomber must be. It's the one place where they're using a large amount of the substance that was found on the hand that would be explosive. They start talking to the foreman about it, but then they quickly start fighting over how Spike left him to go get noodles. The foreman actually has to be like, yo, I've seen the good cop, bad cop thing before, but I've never seen the bad cop, asshole cop thing. Spike corrects him and says, we're not cops, we're cowboys, and we're not opposed to cutting you in on the profits. Foreman tells him, I'm not opposed to making some extra money, but fortunately there's been nothing missing from our stash. I check it every night. If you don't believe me, go talk to our supplies guy, Theodore. He'll tell you. But Spike asks him, you mean to tell me your supply guy is nicknamed Teddy? That's too much of a coincidence. So they go to track down the supplies guy. They end up breaking into his place, but as they walk through it, it's pretty booby-trapped. Spike wants to go to the cockpit, but Jet Black says, no, let's go to the hull. So they start walking towards the hull. The whole time, they're trying to avoid booby traps that could potentially blow the place up. When they get to one part of the ship, Spike ends up noticing that there's a cup of noodles, so he's immediately distracted. But he also notices that it's still warm, which means that Teddy couldn't have gotten far. And that's when the ship starts moving. Spike yells at Jet Black, I told you we should have gone to the cockpit, so that's where they head. And it doesn't take long for the ship to make it out of orbit. It also doesn't take long for them to reach the cockpit, but when they look in, no one's there. And that's probably a good thing, because the ship gets hit with a bunch of space debris that ends up destroying the cockpit. Now Jet Black and Spike have a bigger issue. They need to get off this ship, a ship that they can't steer, so they need to look for an escape pod. They once again start squabbling, and that's when Jet Black brings up the fact that his tracking device was turned off, and that's weird. You don't turn your tracking device off for noodles. Spike takes offense to the fact that he was being tracked, but Jet Black reminds him, we're partners, man. You don't just abandon your partner. During the argument, Jet Black ends up stepping on a booby trap. And about a second later, a guy walks in who's really only wearing a bomb and a bear head costume. Think we found our bomber. He starts talking to them, but they can't understand him because he's wearing that teddy bear costume. They are able to discern most of his message. It basically is, he's going to blow them sky high if they don't get the Ichabod. What he actually means is escape pod, but they haven't figured that out yet. With Jet Black kind of immobilized, it's up to Spike to disarm this guy, and he is able to. He ends up knocking him out, and shortly after he realizes, oh, he was talking about an escape pod. Now the question is, who actually takes it? Jet Black ends up saying, you take it. But before he can actually make a case, Spike ends up pushing him off the booby trap and standing on it himself. He says to Jet Black, I would probably get distracted and stop at a bar or for noodles or something, so you take it. And Jet Black promises that he'll be back for him. Right before Jet Black does hop in the escape pod, though, Spike says, there's one more thing I gotta tell you. And you think that it might be about his syndicate background, but he chickens out. Just saying, can you bring me those noodles that were sitting over there? And then finally, we haven't talked about Vicious. He's trying to sleep when he gets a knock at the door, and it's a bunch of syndicate members, although they're not there for a wellness check. They tell Vicious the elders would like a word. They hook up a device that allows Vicious to talk to the elders, who are probably on another planet, but it sets up a hologram. And the elders yell at Vicious for trying to go behind their backs and sell red-eye. Vicious plays it off like, well, I was doing it to up our profits and help your business, but they're not buying that. They want a show of loyalty from Vicious. So they have the syndicate members that they sent to Vicious's place hand him a gun, and they demand that he pull the trigger and kill Julia. He begs them, take something else, my finger, anything, but they're steadfast. No, you have to kill Julia. And after some screaming and yelling, eventually he does in fact pull the trigger. Luckily for Julia, it wasn't loaded. And the elder tells him, don't make us question your loyalty again. But as you can imagine, this kind of puts a rift in the relationship between Vicious and Julia. You tend to get upset when your significant other pulls the trigger at your head, even if it's not loaded. Vicious tells her, I knew it wasn't loaded, the weight was off, but Julia doesn't buy that. She looks up at him and says, make sure the gun's loaded next time. I mean, you promised to keep me safe from the elders, especially him. We're assuming it's the one that ordered the kill. She continues to yell at Vicious, telling him, I see now you'll always be in the shadows, so you may as well put a bullet in me now, because you will never be man enough to stand up for yourself. And that's when Vicious chokes her. He yells at her, don't you ever tell me I'm not man enough, and then he throws her on the ground. He goes to blow off some steam, and he does that at Anna's, and Anna is keeping a close watch on all the security camera footage, so when she sees Vicious, she turns that knob up, and she overhears a conversation between Vicious and some other syndicate members, and they tell Vicious that the hitman that they sent to get Fearless ended up dead, and that enrages Vicious even more. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought this sucked. Make sure to be nice in the comment section. If you don't see the next video up in the end screen there, I'll get it up in a few days, not to worry. And I have merchandise, so go buy a mug or something. It's never too early to think about Christmas gifts, folks. Once again, thank you for checking out this recap.